We will start with the Phillies. Phillies lose last night, Hugh. Their winning streak broken. They lose 6-1 to the Reds last night. Kind of an uneventful game, a pretty boring game to watch. Rain delay as they're going into the seventh inning. But the game was really lost before that. As Ranger Suarez has a rough night.
Yeah.
He gave up 3 runs in the first few innings of the game. Rob Thomson, as we head into the 6th inning, he allows Ranger to stay in as the Phils were down 3-0, doesn't go to the pen. Ranger gets shelled in the bottom of the 6th. That really was the game last night, and one that was, I don't know, in some ways, you felt like the Phils were due for a clunker like that last night.
And I think the reason why he stuck him back out there, TK, was because Ranger was having a tough go at it. Him and the ump were kind of going at it a little bit. And you're looking for redemption at that point. He hadn't had a bunch of great starts. So I wouldn't be surprised if Ranger or there was a discussion like, hey, man, let me go out there and see if I can, try to save this as much as I possibly can, redeem myself.
Yeah, and that's kind of the story last night, is if you go to the bullpen, hey, maybe they give you a scoreless 6, you come out of the rain delay, their starters out of the game, it's only 3-0, maybe you have a chance, but Ranger stays out, and obviously game gets put out of reach. Now, I didn't have a huge problem with it, and I think when we look at this, to me it's a grander conversation. I mean, the Ranger thing last night, it is what it is. Ranger struggle, we'll get to his concerns coming up here in a little bit, but I feel like lately, amongst fans more than anything else, Rob Thomson's been under a microscope. And we talk so much about the team, but people seem, and maybe I'm misreading it here, but I feel like a decent amount of this fan base doesn't trust Rob Thomson. They don't trust him to push the right buttons, make the right moves when it matters. I don't really get it. I think he's one of the best managers in baseball. I think he's been one of the best managers in baseball since he took over. And I'll just have to start the show here. Do you trust Rob Thomson to push the right buttons and manage this team to a World Series? 215-592-9494. 215-592-9494 to get in. I do. I don't really get where the doubt comes from. I think he's done a great job, especially this year. I totally trust Rob Thomson. Where do you fall here?
I trust him. I trust him because he's the guy that has his finger on the pulse. We can sit here and watch as much baseball as your heart desires, and you can feel like you know as much as the manager, but you don't, because he has his finger on the pulse of this team. And I know that's kind of hard to digest because we love baseball as much as we do. But when you look at the run that he was just on before this meltdown happened with Ranger, people were talking about he was pushing the right buttons. So to me, you're going to have those clunker days. And with that being said, TK, the fact that our strongest asset right now is starting to look like our biggest liability coming in, and we're looking at Nola differently now, that's just the ebb and flow of baseball to me. That's just what we're dealing with, the fact that we don't know if Zach Wheeler is going to get his velo back. The fact that Ranger looked like he was pitching his way into a extension, a contract. Now he's struggling and he's frustrated. That's what I saw last night. I saw a guy that was on the mound that saw his monetary value go down, and it's been going down the last couple games.
Yeah, Rangers struggled a little bit lately, and really, like you said, Hugh, the starting rotation, the thing that we thought was a certainty, has looked a little shakier lately. I mean, Zach Wheeler, I'm not as concerned about Zach Wheeler. That being said, he hasn't been the same since that complete game he pitched against the Reds here a little over a month ago. The Ranger Suarez, Jesus Luzardo part of it, they've been up and down. I mean, Luzardo, really, after those first 2 months, he's been very volatile. Ranger has struggled of late. But when I look at this team, and I look at the way Rob Thompson's had to manage things, he's had to deal with a very difficult outfield situation. He's essentially dealt with one starting outfielder all year long and has pushed the buttons well enough for this team to be 5 up in the division. And is Rob Thomson perfect? No. Like, I was very critical of Rob Thomson after 2023, that Arizona series, putting Craig Kimbrell out there. It was a big mistake. Now, part of it was the lack of options that he had, but he shouldn't have done that in that spot. But what I've seen from Rob Thomson since then, over the last year and a half, I've seen a manager that's grown. He'll try things. Last year in the playoffs, I honestly think, even though they lost him 4, I thought he managed a great series. He benched Bowman game 2. He wasn't afraid to make kind of unconventional moves. He, I thought, went to the right guys in the bullpen. He started Christopher Sanchez in game 2 over Nola, even though, that wasn't like the conventional decision. I have worries about this team. Rob Thomson is not one of my worries. I think he's fine, and I think Rob Thomson will push the buttons the Phillies need to get them in position to win a World Series.
I think he will as well, but this is like I said, an ebb and flow of baseball, and there's been some times where he's did some things that I would say people would question. But the fact that you ran this thing back the way that you did, and you added the minor, well, I wouldn't say Deron Duran was a minor piece, but in outfield you added a minor piece.
Sure.
And I think that you've done well in that short stint. But the bottom line is this for me, and this is why I said yesterday that I was going to remain even-keeled and not forget about last year, because this team is going to be measured by how they perform in the postseason. Now, they're playing well. Now, it feels like they have momentum, but the bottom line is they're going to be measured by how they handle the postseason.
I agree. I just don't think like Rob Thomson should be made out to be a scapegoat if the players don't perform in the postseason.
Well, the reality of the situation is, TK, who you're going to find. Like, when heads roll, I would venture to say, even if it's not fair, that his is going to be one of the first ones to go. Because, you got too much money on this roster to look at the guys and say they can't get it done. And there's been too many examples of them getting it done in the regular season because, what is it, 6-game lead, 5-game lead?
5-game lead now.
5-game lead now, that you fought back with these guys and you put yourself in a hell of a situation. But as the manager, you're the guy that's going to be looked at and say, hey, why couldn't you push the buttons to get them over the top?
Yeah, and I totally agree. Like, if the Phillies don't perform in the playoffs, Rob Thompson's going to be the guy to pay. I just don't think that's the way it should be. And I thought Ruben Amaro,
life isn't fair.
It's certainly not for a baseball manager. But here was Ruben Amaro Jr. on the Philly Show podcast talking about Rob Thomson and how he views him as a manager.
I maintain the same thing. He's one of the best managers they've ever had here, and for a lot of different reasons that I feel that he handles things extremely well. If you would tell me that this team, where they are offensively, basically underperforming offensively, with one of the worst bullpens in baseball, and be in this position to be, 5.5 games up or whatever it is? Is it 6 now?
20 games above 500.
6 games over, or 6 games above the Mets, and 20 games over 500, then I would say that this manager's done a heck of a job.
And my apologies, that was actually on the morning show yesterday. Rob Thomson said, or Ruben Amaro said.
Yeah, and he's right. But the bottom line is this: this is a performance-based business. All of them. I remember when Tony Dungy got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to the point where they were on the cusp of going to the Super Bowl, and he couldn't get them over the hump. They got rid of him, and as soon as they got rid of him, they win the Super Bowl. That's a bad memory for me, but it was relevant to the story.
Why'd you have to bring that up, Hugh?
Because it's relevant to the story that I'm having. Now, eventually, Tony Dungy went out and got his win in the Super Bowl and became a Hall of Fame coach. But the bottom line is this. When you've amassed the talent that you have on this squad, for the lack of how people feel about it, but for you to run this back and still and be in the position that you are, that's an impressive job. But if you can't get this team over the hump, then yes, you're going to be blamed for that, because you're not going to blame the players.
Well, which is infuriating me. I mean, the players are one on the field. Man. Let's blame the players a little bit. This isn't Rob Thomson. 215-592-9494. But want to know if you trust Rob Thomson to manage this team to a World Series. I do. I think Rob Thomson is the least of the Phillies' issues right now. What's your take? 215-592-9494. Go to the phones in a minute here. But Kyle Quinn in the studio producing the show. Where are you at, Kyle? Where are you at with Topper today and after last night? Maybe leaving Ranger in a little bit.
So I am a Topper guy. I'm going to get that out of the way before everyone jumps on me and calls me a hater.
You're a Topper?
Come on, man.
I mean, you got to be immature at 10:13 in the morning.
Now I don't even know what to say.
Yeah, I shouldn't have left it like that. I'm sorry.
Guilty. You should have seen Hugh laugh at his own joke immediately. He's very proud of that one.
I am so ignorant. I'm sorry.
You totally have thrown me off now.
Kyle, your point.
Yeah, I'm a topper guy. I'll put it this way. I got my eye on Rob Thomson.
Oh, my God.
What?
It's just funny.
You got your eye on.
I got my eye on you. I got my eye on you, buddy.
I got my eye on Rob Thomson.
Come on, big guy.
When it comes to if I fully trust him, am I giving him my full unequivocal trust in a postseason situation? I don't know if I can go there. Last night bothered me a little bit. Now, did it end up mattering with the bats as cold as they were? No.
Cold as ice.
They were, but he had to have seen what everybody else saw with Ranger Suarez. You can't put him back out there for the 6th. Like, Ranger is not usually a guy who gets flustered and wears his emotions out there.
He melted.
He did. He had a total meltdown when that ump blew that call, and that wasn't Ranger's fault. But like, I mean, you have to see those signs as a manager, and Rangers started to unravel, I think, in a pretty big way. Not to mention the guy's like a 6.6 ERA since the All-Star break. Like,
yeah.
He hasn't been going very deep into these games and being effective. Like, that was something that, at least just in terms of last night, I think Rob Thomson had to step in and do something. Now, in the postseason, the Kimbrel thing happened, the Zach Wheeler and Alvarado thing happened. Like, sometimes, every now and then, I just think he overthinks it or puts a little bit too much trust in some guys. So, like, there's that there. But also, the thing that I sort of done a 180 on recently was this whole outfield platoon thing. We've been celebrating it for a while. But it does make me wonder a little bit if that's going to prevent any of these guys from truly getting into a rhythm by the time the postseason comes around. Because while it looks good right now, I worry that one or two of those guys are going to be cold and Topper's not going to push the right button. And by the way, I think the real platoon that we need to be talking about, and that I don't know if Topper has the balls to do, is the Castellanos one. Like, he benched Castellanos early in the season. Castellanos yelled at him for it in front of the entire team. And then he never did it again. He never replaced Castellanos for defense, and he really has given him a rest one day since then. So I don't know if Topper has the backbone to do something like that again in the postseason. And I think some of the pitching decisions are just a little bit shaky. So I am a Topper guy, and I know after I say all that, it doesn't sound like I'm a big Topper guy.
Like you're a Topper guy.
But like that's just to say I had my eye on him a little bit.
Oh, well, I get it. And if you want to get in 215-592-9494, do you trust Rob Thomson to push the right buttons, manage his team to a World Series? Kyle, I get it doesn't sound like he does. I do. Hugh does, but I want, like, the Nick Castellanos thing I think is interesting. I'm glad Kyle brought that up because, yeah, he benched Nick Castellanos for defense early in the season, but I think that's a different scenario than the playoffs. Like, Afternoons asked a question yesterday, would he do it in the playoffs? I fully believe he would. I think the reason why he's not doing it now, and let me know if you agree or not, Hugh, like in the regular season, you got to manage personalities. You got to keep guys kind of invested, and if you start doing this every single game, I think it's a situation where you could lose a guy like Castellanos. When it gets to the playoffs, I think it's a different thing. It's all hands on deck. You got to do what's best from an X and O perspective. But in the regular season, I think it's more about managing personalities.
I think that, Nick Castellanos is a fiery guy, but I think that when you look at the bigger picture, that he will understand that. And what I mean by that is, if you have to sacrifice yourself or put the team in front of yourself, I don't think you have a problem with that, because this team has been talking World Series for the last couple of years, man. And I can't imagine anybody on a team that's that tight would put themselves above the good of the team if it makes the team better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's basically when Nick Castellanos had the blow up that he had. I think that was the conversation, and that's why he came back and he had to see, what was it, the analytics or the film or whatever he wanted to see where his game was lacking a little bit.
Right, and playoffs are a different deal. I think it is a different situation then, and I think Rob Thomson would do it then. And by the way, just real quick before we get to the phones, on the outfield situation, and I know he's been swinging the bat a little better lately, Max Kepler's got to lay out for that ball. I mean, the one that went to the corner.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, man. We need a better effort than that.
We need some sacrifices.
That was maybe a little,
I don't know. If he misses that might turn into an inside the Parker.
Well, it was going to be a double or a triple anyway.
Yeah.
He could have caught that ball. Lay out. Come on, Kepler.